I was a woman at the center of tradition, judgment, loyalty, and consequence. Before the arrival of our twins, I waited. I waited the way women are trained to wait. Quietly, faithfully, without complaint. I trusted Malik. I trusted his mother. I trusted their decisions because I believed we were building something together. While I raised our daughters alone. While I defended his absence. While I explained to curious relatives that distance was temporary and love was steady. I never knew I was provisional. I never knew I was on standby. Not until I arrived in Canada. Not until I met Tolu. Yes, I was Malik's first and only wife before he travelled. I carried his name. I carried his children. I carried his reputation. I carried his daughters. And by cultural default, I became his standby wife. That was the phrase back home. Polite, cruel, efficient, standby. As if I were a generator waiting to be replaced by a stronger power source. Malik and his mother had already concluded that I would never give him a son. Not because of science, not because of evidence, but because I came from a family of 9 girls. 9. To them, 9 wasn't coincidence. It was destiny. Traditionally, that meant something. It meant risk. It meant extinction. It meant a lineage dissolving quietly into other surnames. So decisions were made, plans adjusted. Another woman entered the picture, not for love, not for passion, but for purpose. A controlled experiment, a calculated solution to what they believed was my failure. She too produced daughters. And only then, only after that failure, did Malik call me to join him. The truth had texture when it finally settled. It felt like sand in my mouth, like cold metal against skin. The building project must be finished first. The delay, the secrecy, the sudden urgency afterward. I wasn't invited because I was missed. I was summoned because I was next. That morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains in thin, golden lines. The room smelled faintly of baby lotion and milk. The twins lay side by side in their bassinets, wrapped in soft blue and white blankets. Their breathing was slow and synchronized, innocent, unaware of the history they had just disrupted. I sat on the edge of the bed watching them, 2 boys, 2 heirs, 2 answers to a question that nearly destroyed my marriage. And I felt something shift, not triumph and clarity. It was time. Malik did not know that I knew. He did not know about my conversation with Tolu. He did not know the pieces had already aligned in my mind. He did not know that I had traced the timeline back to the beginning. Back to when I was quietly downgraded to contingency. My mother would arrive in Canada in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I wondered if I could wait that long before confronting him. Could I sit across from him at dinner? Could I share a bed with him? Could I pretend the twins were simply joy and not evidence? The house felt too quiet, so I did what daughters do when the silence becomes unbearable. I called my mother. Her voice was steady as always, grounded, familiar. The sound of it alone nearly broke me. I told her everything. About Malik, about his mother, about the other woman, about the years I waited without knowing I was being evaluated. I spoke without interruption. The words poured out, thick, hot, unfinished. I didn't censor myself. I didn't soften it for her. I gave her the raw version. When I finished, there was silence. Not the tense kind, the listening kind. Then she asked calmly, "My daughter, are you done talking?" "Yes, Mama," I said, my throat tight. And then she laughed. A soft laugh. Not mocking. Not dismissive. Knowing. I didn't understand it. My grip tightened around the phone. For a second, anger flared. Why would she laugh? Did she think my pain was amusing? Did she think I was dramatic? But I looked at the twins, at their tiny fingers curled into fists, at their chests rising and falling in perfect rhythm. And something in me steadied. My mother's laughter wasn't disbelief. It was recognition. She had lived this before me. She had survived this before me. And perhaps she already knew something I was still learning. That legacy does not break strong women. It exposes weak systems. I smiled at my sons as they slept. 2 weeks. I could wait 2 weeks. But this time, I was not waiting in ignorance. I was waiting in control. And when I finally confronted Malik, it would not be from desperation. It would be from decision. Welcome to this episode titled The Woman Before Me. Don't go yet. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, because the ending of this story will blow your mind. While the call was still connected, my eyes drifted upward, and then they froze. My mother's WhatsApp profile picture. I don't know why I had never really looked at it before. Maybe because children grow used to seeing their mothers in one fixed version. Practical, strong, unshakable. But in that small circular frame on my screen, I saw something else. Time, grace, history. My mother was aging beautifully, not fading, evolving. Her skin still carried that deep, luminous tone that once made people stop mid-conversation. Her cheekbones were sharp and proud. Her eyes, those eyes had always been her power. She was once the tall, bubbly, elegant girl of the village, the kind of beauty that didn't need effort, the kind men remembered. I grew up hearing stories of her youth, how men lingered at the compound gates longer than necessary, how market women whispered about her complexion, how suitors lined up, confident they would be chosen. She refused many of them, not because she was arrogant, but because she had plans. She wanted to continue her education after secondary school. She wanted lecture halls, books, independence. She wanted something beyond cooking fires and courtyard politics. But pressure mounted. Her parents believed marriage was security, stability, honor. A good husband is better than ambition, they told her. Then my father appeared, charismatic, educated, respected. He made promises. If she married him, he would support her further education. He would sponsor her schooling. He would make sure she became more than just a wife. She believed him. That was how she married my father. That was how dreams are sometimes negotiated. Not abandoned, just postponed. The first child came, then the second, then the third. Life moved quickly. Babies replaced books, responsibilities replaced applications, and every time she reminded my father of his promise, he nodded vaguely. Soon. Later. Let's settle first. Soon became never. Later became silence. He reneged. It wasn't that he couldn't afford it. He could. My father was, and still is, wealthy, financially comfortable, a man of means, a man whose name carried weight in boardrooms and village squares alike. But he chose not to educate my mother. He chose convenience. He chose control. He chose tradition. I remember that night clearly. We were all gathered in her bedroom. The air was thick and still. A single bedside lamp cast a soft amber glow across the walls. My sisters and I sat on the floor around her bed, listening. She was not dramatic. She did not cry loudly. But when she told us the story, when she described the moment she realized the promise would never be kept, her voice cracked. And that was when I broke. Tears streamed down my face, not just for the education she lost, but for the girl she once was. The tall, hopeful, majestic girl who thought marriage would expand her world, not narrow it. I understood something that night. Sacrifice is not always noble. Sometimes it is theft dressed as duty. As I stared at her profile picture now, holding my phone in one hand and glancing at my sleeping twin boys in their bassinets, something connected inside me. My mother had once been the woman at the center of tradition, judgment, loyalty, and consequence. Just like me, she sacrificed her education to preserve a marriage. I almost sacrificed my dignity to preserve lineage, different era, same structure. And suddenly, her laughter earlier made sense. She wasn't laughing at my pain. She was laughing at the predictability of patriarchy, at how men think legacy is new when it is ancient, at how women keep discovering the same lesson in different houses. My tears fell quietly onto the screen of my phone, but this time they were not only tears of sadness, they were tears of recognition. I was not the first woman to be placed on standby, but I could be the last in my line. My mind drifted while holding the phone. For a moment I forgot it was an international call, forgot the ocean stretched between us, forgot the time difference, forgot that she was thousands of miles away. Then I heard her voice again. My daughter. Are you still there? Yes, Mama, I replied softly. There was a pause, the kind that gathers courage. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. It was heavier now, not weak, weathered. It was the voice of a woman who had walked through fire and come out quiet, not because she wasn't burned, but because she learned how to carry pain without spectacle. Your father promised me, she began slowly, that I would be his only wife. The words landed carefully, as though she had rehearsed them many times in her head, but rarely spoken them aloud. But after all said and done, she continued, he had many concubines outside. I closed my eyes. The room around me felt still. I heard stories, she said. Some I confirmed, some I pretended not to hear. Some of the women I knew personally, others people told me about in whispers. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't crack. It settled. To be continued in episode 11. Don't go yet. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, because the ending of this story will blow your mind. Hi, welcome back to episode 11. Your father, she laughed, had many children outside of marriage, she said plainly. Children he never told me about, children we never discussed, but none of them were male children. I swallowed in anger. And you never confronted him? I asked. Why, Mama? I asked. She exhaled softly. I pretended it wasn't my problem. The sentence hung in the air like smoke. You see, she added quietly, men will always be men. It is a cultural thing, my daughter. No, Mama, I'm not going to excuse that behaviour, if you ask me. I protested, and challenged my mother. However, she continued before I could carry on. I was angry and upset at what my mother had gone through, my father, sowing his seed wherever he went, without regards for his wife, my mother. Tears streamed down my face. He was desperate, my mother said. Desperate for a male child. In that desperation, he slept with nearly everything that came his way. There was a pause. Then, unexpectedly, her voice shifted, almost playful. I'm sure he would have slept with a ghost if one had crossed his path. I gasped. Mama, really? I said. We both laughed. The kind of laugh that isn't funny, but necessary. The kind that releases pressure so you don't explode. Then her tone softened again. One night, she said, your father knelt before me. That startled me. My father? The proud man. The respected chief. The one whose ego filled entire rooms? He knelt? I asked. Yes. She didn't embellish it. He knelt down in front of me and begged for forgiveness. I sat up straighter on the bed. What happened? Why? He said, I have hurt you badly. The silence after that sentence was thick. I imagined the scene. My father, the powerful man reduced to humility. My mother standing before him, not victorious, not vindictive, just exhausted. I smiled, she said softly. Tears were streaming down my face. Why did you smile? I asked. Because by then, she replied, I had already died a little inside. Her honesty pierced me. I told him to stand up, she continued. A man kneeling does not undo years of betrayal. My throat tightened. And then, I whispered. And then, she said calmly, I advised him to marry the second wife. My heart stopped. You... what? If he wanted a male child so badly, she said steadily, let him pursue it properly. I felt heat rise in my chest. That wasn't fair to you, I said. She gave a small, knowing chuckle. Fair? She repeated. Marriage was never about fairness for women in my time. There was no bitterness in her voice, only clarity. And the third wife? I asked. She came later, my mother replied. Success breeds confidence or arrogance. She paused. But do you know something, my daughter? What? None of them gave him peace. The statement landed like prophecy. He gained wives, she said, but he lost rest. He gained sons eventually, but he lost intimacy. Her voice dropped lower. And do you know who he still sits with in old age? I already knew. You, I whispered. Yes. The line went quiet. Legacy, she said slowly, does not guarantee love. My eyes drifted to my sleeping twin boys, 2 heirs, 2 symbols, 2 innocent lives. My mother's voice softened. I made sacrifices you do not have to repeat, she said gently. Do not advise your husband to marry another woman just to prove you are strong. The words struck deeply. I had almost done it. I had almost told Malik the same thing. I realized something in that moment. My mother did not surrender. She survived. But survival is not the same as fulfillment. And maybe my generation did not have to choose survival over dignity. The twins stirred softly in their bassinets. The room smelled faintly of baby powder and night air drifting through a slightly open window. I pressed the phone closer to my ear. Mama, I said quietly, what should I do? There was no hesitation this time. Make him choose, she said, not angrily, not dramatically, simply. And if he chooses wrong? I asked. She exhaled. Then you choose yourself. The line went silent again, but this time I wasn't afraid of it. Because I finally understood I was not my mother. And this would not be her story repeated. To be continued in episode 12. Don't go yet. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, because the ending of this story will blow your mind.